Pax Day has kind of been on my radar for a while. There's like this weird group of Unreal Engine 5 MMOs that are kind of lurking. We're not sure when they're going to come out, but they all look kind of promising. But to me, they also all look kind of generic. And so I'm like, which one is going to emerge and have a really cool gameplay loop that sets itself apart? They kind of seem to be riding the coattails of Ashes at the moment. Like, what is going to be the one other than Ashes that's going to be really good? Pax Day, I saw some original footage and I thought, it just looks kind of like Unreal 5 assets, that they've put together. And so I'm like, is it going to be that great? I'm not really sure. Well, there's been some more clarity recently. They have an alpha going on right now. It is open, so you can go watch the YouTube videos. There's a lot of cool stuff out there about it, but they say now they're going to go in the direction of kind of like a builder survival open world MMO. And so just some of the stuff I watched, like I think Asmongold had his horde of Spurgs, on the server, creating these massive castles and corridors and stairways up mountains. And I'm like, this actually looks kind of cool. Some of the things you can build in this game, it does look impressive and not so generic now that I've looked at it. I'll just start with you, Rob. Have you got a chance to look at any of the stuff? And would you say this appeals to you maybe in a way like a Valheim does, or like is this like a Valheim MMO to you, or is it something different? I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, the look and the feel I get from it doesn't look very Valheimish. It looks
Mm.
like if New World was a survival game.
Hmm.
But I think you can already tell the combat and like the enemies you're gonna face are gonna be bigger and badder, and the combat mechanics are gonna be gonna be ratcheted up a little bit. So that's the kind of the vibe I get from it.
Were you
A
impressed
quick
with the
thing.
building? Oh, go ahead, Coltrane.
Well, I was just going to say what's funny about New World that Rob brought up. New World was originally a survival builder game. The
Mm.
alpha of New World
Mm.
No
was you
way.
would build bases and build
Yeah.
strongholds and that kind of thing. It
Mhm.
was very similar in a couple of ways to Pax Day. So that code
Interesting.
is there. It exists somewhere in there.
Mm.
But I totally agree with you, Rob. It definitely had that kind of like New World vibe to it.
Chase, did you get a chance to check out any of the footage on that?
No, I was just saying that Asmongold, I've been watching his videos pretty obsessively over the last few days. He watched some guy that played it for 100 days straight. This guy does all of that by himself. And
Mm.
it's kind of
Wow.
nuts to watch because I was like, that is a lot of work for one man to put in and do all of this. He builds castles, he goes into deep dive caves, all this stuff. And I'm like, one, I'm kind of impressed, but at the same time, I think Asmon's like, man, he could have just hired like I did and gotten 100 guys to do all of his bidding. But it's, so it's interesting to see that kind of almost single player like experience happening. Um, and then also having the elements of it being an MMO, so at any time that that building that he builds could crumble down because some griefer could decide to just tear it all down. Kind of reminds me of like the early days of what was that initial one, Rust. Kind of gives
Yes.
me like a
Mm-hmm.
Rust vibe, but beautifully crafted. I mean, it looks gorgeous. And I think Rob brought up a great point. It feels like New World meets the old style, kind of that survival. But it's just beautiful. It really is. And I'm intrigued. Honestly, I haven't been intrigued by a survival game in a long time.
And to me, I don't want to say disappointed because those aren't usually my style of games. Like, I mean, I do like open world PvP, but I haven't played Ark. I'm not really into the Ark style or Rust, where it's the base building, base raiding kind of a thing. Scott or James, when you guys saw any of this, is this the kind of game you're looking for? It looks pretty hardcore builder survival, but when I look for an MMO, I want the more traditional in game usually. Not always, but I do like that with
Yeah.
some open world elements if they can have it. Is this up you guys' alley, or are you like, maybe not the direction I wanted it to go?
I'll be quick because I'm a bad boy and I didn't do my homework and read up on this. But I get a
Oh,
sense
we
of it
love you.
listening to you guys talk about it. So I will say though, I'm intrigued as Tom and I have spoken about quite a few times now. I have said that I believe that the next evolution of MMOs is going to be this combination of survival and traditional MMO. So it's something now that you've spoken about it. I'm interested because this is one of the first iterations of those. So I think we're going to witness the actual transition happen here, and this could be something that sets the tone going forward.
And almost gives me, could be like a Planet Side vibes, James. I don't know. Is that appealing to you? That style of huge open world base rating kind of a deal, building survival? Is that, I don't know.
Well, the game is definitely gorgeous.
Yeah.
It is just like vast valleys, and you have forests, and it gives you that, like, what if Valheim was in HD? Like when you went from like Nintendo to like PlayStation. It looks like that difference of quality. I think they're focusing a lot on the building, which is really cool, because that was one of the better elements of Valheim. The issue I see is like the combat that they did show is like, it looks really clunky. Like I'm not expecting like, oh my gosh, this is in your face, fast paced, but it looks like it's almost in slow motion, which can be, easily sped up and everything. But I think the transition that they failed to make in these survival type games is rules. So all these survival games, there's just no rules. It's like, all right, you can put a thing to protect your base, nobody can damage it, or it's like your base is destroyed, you're getting griefed every 2 seconds. There's no like turnaround time of, all right, hey, you got destroyed, you got 2 days to make up your base again, you have half the materials, and these are the things you can help protect your base. There's no like set rules. There's just whoever has the best mob will just conquer. So I think the game is gorgeous, and the building looks better than the combat. But I think in that type of game, you're going to have the combat. It's like a Lineage type look to it, like Lineage 2 meets like Assassin's Creed and New World, obviously. You have all these games kind of clash together with the style and look. I just really want that combat to be balanced too, because building's great, but if you don't have that feel-good combat, especially sieging castles, like I'd think something like Black Desert would be kind of cool, like to mix in there elements from that. Not super fast-paced, but something similar to where you feel like you're doing something more, because the it looks kind of slow, but it looks gorgeous.
They did mention, and it's a good thing, they actually are going to do a massive combat overhaul for PAX Day. They said it's not in this first beta, in this first alpha, but they said don't worry. Like, they acknowledge everything you just said, James. You're 1,000% correct, and the developers agree. They're like, our combat is temp, it's terrible, and we are revamping this entire thing. So in their next big alpha, they're going to unveil this new combat type thing that they're going to introduce to the game. Because you're so right, man. Combat for any MMO is the core. I think of anything. The combat's got to feel good. And I think that's part of the popularity of World of Warcraft. The combat just feels great. Yeah. One quick thing, though, that I'm excited about PAX Day is something that I always did in ARC. And I'm going to give you boys a little warning, all right? Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to build a house in PAX Day, and it's going to look like this nice, wonderful log cabin. And you're going to walk in, you'll be like, oh, wow, this place is great. And then suddenly you're going to fall through a trap door. No. And I always build a maze underneath the house with all these doors on north, south, east, west are going to be identical. And you're going to try and find your way out, and you're not going to make it. You're not going to find your way out. Because I did this in ARC, and I would just see bodies of people just in the maze that were trying to rob.
You're going to lower the lotion in the basket.
Exactly. We need to have a conversation behind the scenes about
it's MMO therapy about this.
How to spot a psychopath in your maze.
Yes, I guess you're right. But it is amazing when you log in and you just see bodies like, they know. Yes. But there was a way out. But I'm telling you, no one could ever figure it out. So I'm giving you a pre-warning. So come on down to my beautiful log cabin by the lake in PAX Day. It's good to go. Exactly. Just watch your step. That's all I'm saying. Just look at the floor. Watch your step. That's all I'm saying.
Oh my God.
Well,
man.
I think what you said, Scott. No, I think you're right, Scott. The key to these survival ones is going to be finding the mix of survival and traditional, right? And how they implement those things. And you're right, this game is a long way off, so they have tons of iteration to do. I just thought it hit the news and it was all over the place, and it looked really good. So I'm interested to see where it goes. Definitely.